Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Kristen of the Good Doctors of Abbey Research, and welcome to this edition of Welcome to My World, which is a series where I spend some time, about 20 minutes, half an hour, with somebody whose life is not mine. And my guess is that their life is not yours. And we get to learn a little bit about their lives and a way to build empathy and understanding and just kind of walk around in someone else's shoes for a little bit. So today I am joined by Madison Sharpe. Madison is a recent graduate of the Great Lakes Culinary Institute in Traverse City, Michigan. After graduation, Madison was scheduled to attend the Disney culinary program. You can probably guess that she's a fan. However, due to COVID-19, Madison spent her summer working fine dining with a previous 3-star Michelin chef. Most recently, she has accepted a pastry position in Cape May, New Jersey for the 2021 tourist season, which is brand new information to me. And do you realize how close Cape May is here? And I can see you. That's really exciting. So in full disclosure, Madison and I know each other a little bit. We've gotten to do Broadway together. And I met her through her mom, Carrie, who is a total mensch. And they're just a really, really wonderful family. And I'm really jazzed to talk to Madison today a little bit about this industry that I love entirely as a consumer and not as a creator. So can you tell me a little bit about how you decided to be a chef?
Sure. Well, so when I grew up, food was a huge part of my family's life. My grandma on my dad's side is very Ukrainian. So she would come over to visit and, she makes bread the way that I've never seen before. Like she'll grab a coffee mug that's like approximately a cup and she'll be like, all right, about 3 of those. And, like her bread's great. And as someone who does pastry and bread and all of that and the science behind it, I'm in awe of it all the time, And so growing up with that, it kind of put me on the food path to begin with. And then when I was 12, my family went to Disney World. And I got to try so many different foods and cuisines that I had never experienced before. And I realized how much I loved it. And I got to talk to chefs while I was down there at Disney. And overall, it just kind of made me realize this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. And so from then on, it was like, okay, obviously after that, all I wanted to do was be a chef at Disney World. Like that's it. And as 12-year-old Maddie went through the next, 8 years of her life, all she wanted to do was be a chef at Disney. And goals and changes plan as you get older and you realize the reality behind things and everything. But overall, I tell everybody that Disney is the reason I went into culinary.
Totally fair. So I mean, obviously you love food though too. So what does being a chef and creating food mean to you?
I love that it's an outlet for me to be creative and also competitive in the field itself. For me, when I was trying to decide on a career for myself that I would absolutely adore, it was going to be either this or theater. It was going to be one of the two for me. And realistically looking at it and my background as a person and as a creator, I realized that for me to be competitive in the field, culinary was probably going to be my way to go.
Okay. And why is that?
While it's still competitive, I felt like I was able to express myself and just really hone in on those skills in culinary better than I could have in the art industry.
Okay.
I did dance classes when I was younger and stuff like that, but overall my foundation as a young child to the point of graduating high school was more rooted in culinary. And so I had a better background of knowledge and experience in that going into college. And then I love serving people and getting to do that dance in a kitchen that nobody gets to see, but the people who get to experience it. And I really love fine dining in that sense because it's almost like a show at a theater because there's so many working cogs. And the minute that I step into the kitchen, I am on stage. And if something's not going right in the courses, you better bet that your course is going to be screwed up. And, working this summer at Mission Point doing fine dining, I have been given rounds of applause in a dining room. I've had people cry to me about my service. So it's just like, I still have all of those elements of theater that I really enjoy, and getting to see people still experience that and feel all of the emotions like that theater would bring on, but doing that through food. And I love that.
That's fantastic. So we've talked a little bit though about the fact that you are a young woman in this industry that is incredibly, even though we like assume that only women cook, we assume that only men are chefs. And we have this weird relationship, especially in America. I don't know if they have it in other places. But kind of talk me through the youngness, the womanness, the like, how does that feel on your skin?
Well, going into it, my first year in culinary school was kind of my first introduction to being behind a line in a kitchen, food service, so to speak. In high school, I was a host and busser. So like I had been in a restaurant, but still front of the house, which if you think, you know, most kitchens I have worked in still to this day, I am the only female behind the line 9 times out of 10. I think I've only ever worked in one kitchen where I wasn't the only female behind the line.
Okay.
So, and going into that, you know, I've had one job where I interviewed and he was very straightforward with me. He was like, I just want you to know that I've got 15 people on my schedule and you would be the only woman coming in here. And he was very upfront with me about that, which I appreciate going into it, but it's like, you also kind of know that going into it, you know, and men, for whatever reason in this industry, it's kind of accepted that men are crass in a kitchen. It's just the overall stigma behind restaurants. And for whatever reason, you know, people talking a certain way or doing a certain thing in a kitchen is okay because of the fact that it's in a kitchen. It's like how people talk about locker rooms. Like it's just okay because it's a kitchen, you know? And I mean, I come from a place in my culinary school where professional communication was such a huge thing and respect for everyone in the kitchen was such a huge thing. And then you show up and you almost, as a female and being young, you have to prove yourself to all of these people in a kitchen where you shouldn't need to, because I have experience and I have the education to back me up in this field. And I mean, in a lot of the cases in the kitchen, I have more education than other people in the kitchen. And yet still it's like you have to prove yourself. And usually it causes me having to like lose my temper once for everyone else in the kitchen to take me seriously and respect me. And that stigma causes you to feel small in a kitchen, you know, and as someone who has a very big personality and is very confident and all of those things, to be made to feel small in your work environment, which is where you have studied and are professional and everything, is probably one of the worst experiences I've had in the field overall, you know?
How do you, when that happens, which I hope it's only happened a handful of times, but I'm sure it's happened more than I think. How do you do?
It's mostly, you know, I am very much so a fan of, if it happens once, turn the other cheek and continue to show your worth through your work.
Okay.
I believe that hard work is the best way to come across, to be able to change someone's opinion about you. My verbal words are not going to change someone's mind. That just is what it is, you know? So it's not going to be beneficial to me to, you know, yell at someone for the way that they're talking to me. You know, it's not going to work. So the best way that I have found to cope with it is to prove my worth over time while still treating them with respect, because respect is earned, not given.
That's a really fascinating statement, just based on how incredibly regimented I know so many kitchens are.
Yeah.
And so the respect to me would seem to still be assumed to be given based on titles. Like if someone is the chef de cuisine, if you don't, it doesn't matter if you respect them or not, you have to deal with them. And especially I would imagine in fine dining that's especially true.
Yes, that is very true still to this day. We call that the classic brigade system. It's founded in it's very much so classic French cuisine that has kind of carried on through the years overall. And that still is how the hierarchy there works. That just is what it is. And that is also like that whole mindset of, you know, the chef earns all of the respect. That is starting to phase out a little bit as the millennial Gen Z kind of come into play,
Okay.
because millennials and Gen Z, they kind of take less crap than someone in an
I
older
think we do. Yeah.
generation would. And they are demanding to have not hostile work environments and equal pay and all of these things. And so all of these older generation chefs, I read an article about it just the other day, actually, on LinkedIn, about how older generation chefs are having a harder time holding employees of younger generation people because these younger generation people aren't putting up with the whole respect is given situation. They're not going to be treated like crap and give you respect if you aren't respecting them as a person first before a professional.
Fascinating. We're hearing that across industries. So it's really interesting to know that that's also happening in culinary world. And I think so often about like the model of, culinary chefs we have in the United States, like you have the Gordon Ramsays and everybody like, jokes around that. But like, could you imagine working for somebody like that? And it's so toxic. It's good reality TV, but I would cry.
Unrealistic. It's so unrealistic. And
yeah,
I mean, there are still, like, I mean, if you are working in a 3-star Michelin restaurant, you better respect that head chef. And I mean, there's a time and place for everything. Like you're not going to purposely call out this 3-star Michelin executive chef just because he's talking down to one person. Like you're not going to do that. That's right. Just, that's just common knowledge. You know your place basically in those situations. But in these casual dining restaurants and in these resorts and everything, where you're literally flipping burgers, I don't think it's going to fly anymore when an executive chef tears you apart for, dropping a bag of French fries. It's not going to happen anymore.
I want to pause here, and I'm just realizing like this is a world that I love and so I know a lot about, but a lot of our listeners may have no concept of what the stars mean.
Yeah.
So Michelin is correct me if I'm wrong, kind of like an international guide. It's owned by the people who do the tires, but it's a different division.
Yes.
And they kind of grade chefs, not restaurants necessarily, but chefs. Is that correct?
It's everything as a whole, actually. So it's based off of your food, service, I mean, even down to the way that the kitchen is cleaned and the way that the maintenance of the equipment is held.
Okay.
And so, yes, it is graded as a whole.
Okay.
And it's basically just the embodying standard of excellence in the culinary world as a whole.
Okay. And then you start off with 1 star.
Yep.
And then you can get 2 stars and then you can get 3. Can you go above 3?
No, 3 is as high as it goes.
Okay. And it's real hard. And can you lose your stars?
Yes.
Okay. So then it's a lot about we've talked on this channel about Noma in Copenhagen and its process of being best and how it kind of goes around that. And that may be something that some of our viewers may have heard of, but like what are some Michelin starred like chefs or restaurants in the US that people may have heard of?
Sure. Well, Thomas Keller is probably the best well-known chef in America. He's also the only one in the United States to have 2 3-star Michelin restaurants.
And that's Per Se and French Laundry, right?
Yes.
Okay. And French Laundry is in wine country and Per Se is in New York?
I think so. I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. So then who else?
Alinea in Chicago is a Michelin star restaurant. I don't know if they're 2 or 3. I believe they're 3. I could be wrong. The Little Inn in Virginia or Little Inn in Washington, Little Inn in Virginia, something like that. That one is also a Michelin star restaurant. That's the one that my executive chef at Mission Point works for.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but those are a couple of them. There really aren't many in the country at all.
Yeah.
You find a lot more. Actually, Asia is gaining some ground as far as Michelin stars go, and then obviously France is forever going to be the embodying.
Lousy with them. Yeah, we had 2 Michelin star restaurants in Belfast when I lived there. One was a seafood place and one was like a wine pairing small plates place. But yeah, the wine pairing small plates place lost it after I left. I think the seafood one still has it, but yeah. So I don't hear a lot of Michelin star chefs being women though. Is that just something I've missed or is that not true?
It could be something you've missed. It also might not be true. I can't currently name any. honestly, I was kind of thinking about this going into today, and I was like, I talk about all of these great chefs in America and across the world and stuff, and they're all men. Like you talk about Thomas Keller, he's a man. You talk about Anthony Bourdain, he's a man. You talk about any of these guys, it's all men. I mean, Carême was a man. Like literally the foundations of our cuisine were men. So like it just
when we watch Top Chef, my husband and I are always rooting for the women.
Yeah.
And it's been fascinating to hear some of them share even after they've left Top Chef, and they're still on television, kind of what that process has been. And it's really fascinating. I had a perception that there was more women, that you being the only woman in the kitchen in your generation would be different. And so I'm glad you corrected me, but I'm sad to hear that that's still not necessarily an industry that women are going into.
Yeah. And I think it's becoming more and more common for women to go into it. Okay. I mean, my classes at my culinary school were predominantly women. So you can also imagine my surprise then getting out into the industry and not seeing a bunch of women.
I know. Yeah.
Because I think that we think about, like, you think about the whole stigma of the 1950s housewife and how women belong in the kitchen and everything. But, then there's that stigma of women are only allowed in the kitchen if it's not in a professional setting. Yeah. And it's just shocking sometimes, and or you see women who are only pastry chefs and they just assume that when you walk into a room as a woman, that you're going to be the pastry chef on property. Okay. And that's a whole other thing we can talk about.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if I am somebody who's never really kind of thought about this before, what is something that you would like non-chefy people to know about your job?
I think the first thing is to have grace when you go out to eat. Not even just with your server. I mean, your server's just the messenger, honey. Like if your food is taking 45 minutes, it's probably not your server's fault. It's possible your server forgot to bring it in or whatever, but my guess is that the kitchen is just busy. And so being upset with someone for that reason is probably my biggest pet peeve.
Fair.
Or any kind of mistake the kitchen makes. Like if your burger's not cooked properly, don't get mad about that. Just ask for a new one. Most places are very happy to correct the mistake for you.
Yeah.
My other thing is think about the people behind every plate that you eat, because you go out to eat and maybe less so at somewhere casual where you would just get like a burger or something. But if you sit down for fine dining, I promise you that before service ever happens, there have been weeks and months spent planning that plate that you're sitting down to eat. There's a picture of me somewhere doing homework at college, and I was in a menu planning class, and I was just planning a menu, right? And planning this menu took me 3 months. I started it at the beginning of the semester, and I worked continuously on it to the end of the semester. And there's this picture of me, and I'm literally buried in cookbooks and textbooks, and I have my computer and I'm typing down recipes and all these things. And you have that planning of it, but then you also have your recipe testing phase. You have to plan out all the plate designs, which is literally drawing everything onto a plate. And then you have your order of service. There's just so much more that goes on behind the scenes than people think about. And especially in America, we're all about, we don't think about what we're putting into our bodies. We're just kind of eating to fill a need as opposed to wanting that transcendent experience through food. And I mean, these people who are planning these plates, they're giving up their holidays, they're giving up their weekends, they're giving up their nights. Most of them probably don't have a family because they legitimately don't have time to. And I mean, just thinking about those people when you're eating their food is probably the best form of appreciation you can give to someone.
My gosh, and what a great way to end our conversation, that we're holding so many different lives that we intersect with in ways that we've never really even thought about it either. Because then you can think about the farmers and the cultivators and the growers and the people who raise the cattle or the fish or there's so many hands that go into everything we put in our bodies, and we're just so ignorant of that. Oh, what a great thought to end on. Maddie, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great conversation. And folks, I will make sure that you have links to Maddie's Instagram below so you can see all the delicious food that she makes and drool just like I do, and then harass her to mail you food, which she still has not done.
Just come to see me now.
It's so true. I'm so excited. Anyway, guys, we will see you next time on Welcome to My World. Bye.